Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 110, The Hardware of Your Soul. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hey, welcome to the podcast today. I am so glad to be here with you today. You are awesome. Have you set yourself free yet? What are you waiting for? I love the ideas of structural discipline, reactive discipline, and expansive discipline, and have been making more of an effort to make sure that they're all optimized, or at least present in my life, that I have a fun structure to my day that I enjoy. I've actually been shocked to discover over the last year or two that my opinions of my life have pretty thoroughly flipped, and what I most enjoy doing is not escaping on vacation or shopping for frivolous things like it used to be. I used to really look forward to those things to sort of rescue me from my daily reality. Now I do them because I love to spend time with my family, but the funnest days for me are the normal days where I get to get up early and go to the gym, come home and spend time in the morning writing a podcast episode, or time in the afternoon connecting with and helping women architect and get 100% consistent executing an intelligent and personal plan to age like a professional so they're physiologically capable of living and giving more as they get older rather than less. It's amazing. Structural discipline is way funner than it sounds, and reactive and expansive disciplines are the hard things that make you so much more than you thought you could be. It's pretty great. Today, we're going to talk about the hardware of your soul. I love this term. I wish I made it up, but I heard it from one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Daniel Amen. He has a book called Healing the Hardware of the Soul. He's one of the only psychiatrists who helps people with mental problems by actually looking at images of their brain. It's insane to me that everyone else who treats brain problems doesn't care at all about the physical structure of the brain. Anyway, he's fabulous. I've been listening to him for 15 years, probably more. To him, your brain is the hardware of your soul. I love him and I always think he's right, but today we're going to go quite a bit broader and talk about your hardware as your entire physical body. We know that our mind and body are one, and you can't and shouldn't separate your body from the neck down from your mind. So that's what we're going with for today, and I hope it's useful to you. What do you think your soul is? According to the Googles, it's the immaterial part of a human or animal, or the spiritual essence of a person, including that person's identity, personality, and memories. Whether you think of it as your mind and heart, or your spirit, or your identity, there is certainly an immaterial part of us that makes us who we are, and it requires our physical body, at least for right now, while we're on the earth, to be able to operate. I've had my youngest son on the podcast in the past talking about algorithms, so I thought it'd be fun to have my middle son on for a few minutes talking about hardware and software so that we can draw more similes and analogies. He knows and cares way more about that stuff than I do. Okay, you ready for this?
No. Depends on what you need me to talk about.
Yeah, so I asked you if I could interview you.
Yeah.
And you said yes.
Yeah.
And then today I asked you when I should interview, and you said sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
right?
I did say that.
But you don't even know what we're going to talk about.
No.
That's kind of funny. Okay, so tell us what your name is and how old you are.
My name is Quinn, and I'm 15.
Okay. All right, so what I was going to ask you about, so at your school, you had to do like a big project that they call your capstone project, right?
Oh, yeah? That they made somehow worse every year?
I guess. So what was your subject this year?
This year... Why can't I remember what it was? Oh, yeah, computers. Computer hardware.
Computer hardware.
Yeah.
And why did you pick that for your subject?
Because it was something that I already knew stuff about, so it would have been less work. And I didn't have to make a camouflage suit.
Okay. Yes. So you did it so it's less work. Is it interesting to you at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So you picked it because it's something you wanted to spend time working on?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's fascinating to you about computers?
That a piece of metal with other pieces of metal on it can do stuff with, like, it can edit a video or play a game or something like that.
Okay. And do you remember when you were pretty little and I took you to one of those Body Worlds exhibits?
No.
We went to one in Salt Lake and we went to one in Vegas too.
I don't know what Body Worlds
It
is.
has those like plasticized bodies, so it would have like their skeleton, but then when it have their muscles and sometimes their nerves.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember going to that, but I have seen those before.
Okay. And were you super interested in it? Do you remember? You were pretty little.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. The answer is no. You were not. And the one we went to in Salt Lake was in the Leonardo. And we went through and I was like, look how cool this is with their muscles and their nerves coming over. And you were like, didn't care at all. And then we went upstairs and they had like a circuit board where you could make electricity go through. And you loved that thing. So that was way more interesting to you. Okay. So back to computers. What's the difference between hardware and software in a computer?
Software is like apps and the operating system, like Windows or whatever, and then hardware is like the actual physical computer.
Okay. And what does the hardware do?
It uses electronic signals and then it processes them into information. And I'm not sure entirely if it still uses binary or not, but probably some parts of the computer do at least.
But that's the software, isn't it?
Well, that would be like software and firmware, yeah, but it uses electronic signals and processes them into ones and zeros and digital codes.
Okay. And then what does the software do?
The software is what you interact with, and it sends signals back to the computer to be processed. And it does that like thousands of times per second. So you think it's just instant, but there is a time delay.
Okay.
It's usually like 3 milliseconds though, so it's not very much.
Okay. And if you wanted to create a super high functioning computer, which is more important, good hardware or good software?
Well, both are important. You need good hardware to run good software, and you need good software to take full advantage of the good hardware.
Okay. What happens if you have the world's most advanced hardware, but you're running poor quality software?
You wouldn't be able to take full advantage of your hardware.
So if you have really awesome hardware, but your software's not good, your experience of what you're trying to do isn't going to be good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What if it's the opposite? You have really, really, really great software that's like top line designed perfectly, but your hardware is not great.
It probably won't run.
It won't run or
it will run really slowly.
Yeah.
Like, I've tried to run things on my laptop that my big computer would even struggle to run. And it was not a great experience. My laptop got so hot I had to put it in the fridge once.
Okay. And what makes software good versus bad?
How easy it is to use, like the user interface, and whether or not it's, like, if it looks really old or really bad, then, like, if the design is not good, that makes it less enjoyable to use. And if it's hard to find certain things, then that makes it more difficult to use.
Okay. And that's all based on the designer that designed it?
Yeah, it's based on who designs it. And some softwares you can modify to be different, or there will be different settings that look different, but some you can't do that.
All right, and then what makes your hardware good versus bad?
Well, there's some old hardware that's better than new hardware. Like my computer that I have that I built, it runs stuff faster than my laptop, even though the hardware in it is 3 or 4 years older, just because it's more powerful. So for hardware, if it has like more processing cores, or it can run more power through it, then it will be able to process more signals. But the problem with that is that it uses a lot more power.
But you want it to be able to use power and control it?
Yeah, and you want it to be able to use the power efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Do you have any examples of higher quality hardware components that you can think of?
Like actual names of different pieces of hardware, or just like...
Yeah, or like what, like you mentioned, processors, or like whatever. What's most important for a computer to run well?
It depends on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to play games like I do on the computer I built, then you're going to want a better graphics card over like more memory or a better processor. But once you upgrade the graphics card a lot, you're going to have to upgrade the other stuff, or it will do something called bottleneck the graphics card, where it won't be able to use all of the power because the other components just can't keep up.
Okay.
Like with my computer, it has kind of an issue where the processor I used is quite a bit better than the graphics card, so the graphics card bottlenecks it quite a bit.
So you can't have just one thing
that's way better than everything
else. Okay. So obviously your software can be extremely different from computer to computer, whatever software is installed. Because like if you're recording a podcast versus, I don't know, doing all kinds of games or different things. But how different is hardware from computer to computer?
It depends a lot. Like if you're using a laptop, the hardware will be way different from a big computer, because you have to use components that use a lot less power, because the laptop's running off of a battery instead of being plugged into the wall. And they also have to generate less heat because people are putting it on their lap and it will like burn them. Like I've had my laptop get really close to burning me before, just because I was trying to do things on it that it's not built to do.
But the actual components, like every computer needs a hard drive and a processor and whatever lights light up the screen and all that stuff.
Yeah, so some computers don't have screens. Like obviously they have a display somewhere, but like servers and stuff, most of the graphics processors in them, because they do have to have those, don't even have display outputs, because you're not using them as a display. You're using it to compute more information. But then, like normal computers still have multiple display outputs. Like the one that I use has like 6 or 7, even though I'm only using one display, because some of them don't have certain ports, so you'll have to use a different cable. And then some computers don't even have display outputs, like some laptops, because they just don't need it. They have a built-in screen.
Okay, so we already talked about this a little bit. If you have the best software in the world written with impeccable code and it's easy to use, but your hardware isn't that great, what would happen?
It would be laggy, it would be glitchy perhaps, or it would just not work.
Does the appearance of your hardware matter?
Like for the function of the computer, not really, but you don't want it to be super ugly because you have to look at it.
Okay. But it will still
like
function even if it's not like attractive looking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And your desktop computer that you built has a dragon painted on it, right?
Yeah, I painted that on it. And one of the sides looks good, the side that I see the most, but the other two are not that great.
Okay. And does that change the functionality of your computer at all?
No, it just made it harder to dust off because the dust sticks to it, which is kind of annoying.
Sticks to the paint?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I can't really dust it off without a vacuum.
Are there any tips that you have to keep your software functioning at a high level?
If you want your software to function good, you're going to have to keep your computer hardware up to scratch. Like, if you're trying to install some kind of software that might need a really powerful computer, you might have to look up if yours will run it. And also, it's important to keep your computer clean. Like, it's not really a problem as much for laptops because there's not many places that dust can get into it. But like with my desktop computer, it can get quite a bit of dust into it because it's on the floor. And then if there's a lot of dust in it, that will impede the airflow, so the components will start to overheat.
Are there any different tips for keeping your hardware running well? Or is that the same?
Make sure that all your connections are good and make sure that you have a power supply that can keep up. Like the one that I have in my computer can supply about 600 watts of power before it will start to struggle, and my computer only uses about 350 watts, but sometimes it might spike up a lot, and you need something that can keep up with that even if it spikes with the power usage.
What would happen if it couldn't keep up?
Then the computer would shut down. Like, I don't know.
Like overheat?
Well, it would. I don't know. The power supply might overheat. They have cooling built in, but the computer, if it's not getting enough power, it'll start to run slow and it might just completely turn off.
So if you like nicer hardware components, which I think you do, what's the ultimate reason why you want nicer hardware components?
So I can play games that with higher graphics settings, I can play different games that use a lot more power, and I can do more things like I could render 3D models and create animations.
So the hardware is your portal to be able to interact with the software.
Yes.
And the software is what allows you to do stuff in the world, right? Like play a game or make a 3D model or whatever.
Yeah, the software allows you to use your hardware for stuff.
Okay. And you have better outcomes if your hardware and your software are working well?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. The only other question I had is, what if there existed a realm in which when you improved your software, it also improved your hardware?
That would make doing things a lot easier because then you don't have to order a $300 computer part and wait 3 weeks for it to come and then figure out how to install it and then upgrade everything else so it will work just to do one thing.
Right. Okay. That's all my questions, I think.
Okay.
Do you need to know why I asked you all this, or you don't care?
I'm gonna take a guess and say you asked me all this because once I leave, you're gonna try and tie computers into health somehow.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good guess.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Quinn was right. We're going to draw this back to health, right? We're told so often that our minds control everything, and to a certain extent, that's true. Thought work is powerful stuff. You can use your mind to do things that change your physical body. It's crazy. And how you think has a huge effect on how your body feels. We should continue to talk about and gain a better understanding of how our physical health is influenced by our mental and emotional health, because it absolutely is. But I don't think we talk enough about how your physiology affects your psychology. Your hardware, your physical body very much affects your mind and your state of mind and your ability to be reasonable and creative and innovative and hopeful and wise. I say it all the time, your physiology affects your psychology. It's a huge reason to tend to your physical health. I don't care whether you care what your body looks like. I'd prefer that you not care what size it is or whatever. I know it's hard to in our society that we've been socialized in, but that would be the ideal, in my opinion. I just listened to a book called More Than a Body by Lexi and Lindsay Kite, and the subtitle of the book is Your Body is an Instrument, Not an Ornament. I love that whole mindset of thinking of your body as an instrument or vehicle that provides you opportunities to interact with the world and not as a decoration or a trophy or a knickknack. Something that's only valuable for how it looks, right? We want to appreciate it, of course, and I think every woman deserves to feel beautiful, but I would hope that that sense of beauty would ideally come from who she is in the world and who she helps and how she thinks rather than how she looks. I have in the past tended to focus on this, what I think is good way of thinking, that your ability to manage your mind and think positively and do thought work is all that matters, to the point that I devalued the importance of the body, not its appearance, but its role in influencing every aspect of our lives, how we feel and act and what we believe we're capable of. Our cellular health and metabolic health and even the mechanics and posture of our body hugely influence our ability to be a force for good in the world. Our strength and fitness levels influence our confidence and peace of mind, and certainly our healthy or unhealthy behaviors affect us, like how much sleep we get, whether we move frequently throughout the day, and whether we eat whole, nutrient-dense foods. I hope you can draw your own helpful comparisons based on what Quinn and I talked about. I want you to have world-class, top-of-the-line software that can run programs that change the world. Like, for real. It's hugely important, but in order to run your desired software program, whether that's a word processor, a philanthropic foundation, a legal crusade, an inclusivity group, or a resource of gardening expertise, you need hardware, physical components with an electrical current that allows them to work together to accomplish the task of running the software. Like we talked about, the higher quality the physical parts are, the better your software will run. The better connections there are, the more seamless your user experience will be. You want high quality parts and systems, but how they look doesn't really affect how well they'll perform. If you can tell that the components have been neglected or damaged or corroded, they'll probably have some problems. But generally, the case color or the lighted keyboard or the style features don't have anything to do with the functionality of the hardware. While we might focus more on our hard drive or our graphics card or our power capacity, depending on what type of software we want to be able to run most often, we have to have all of our components in working order to run basic functions. And we have to upgrade our hardware above the average off-the-shelf hardware if we want the above the average functionality of the programs that mean the most to us. Like I said, I don't know anything about anything, but there's this big NSA compound close to my house that doesn't have any windows, and I imagine the whole inside of it being like those computer server rooms in movies with banks of towers and cords everywhere. They can't afford to have average hardware elements because they have massive amounts of data to process. I trust that you can see the comparisons. Your ability to function at a high level is either impeded or assisted by the quality and functionality of your physiology. Structural integrity, moving parts can operate without too much friction. Each contact point can establish connections with the parts around them. Hard work can be done without causing overheating. Another thing Quinn talked about was the amount of power your computer is able to handle. Software that's designed to rise to the challenge of highly demanding tasks requires a lot of power. Obviously, your computer doesn't generate its own power the way our bodies do using the fuel we give them, but our power production has a huge effect on the quality of our days and our ability to rise to the challenge of highly demanding tasks. Your power comes from your mitochondria, and upgrading those will affect your mind, soul, and spirit. It's harder to seize up, freeze up, stall out, or lag when your power supply is high and steady. Adequate energy makes your intended programs run more smoothly. It allows important tasks to run in the background and an overall richer user experience. My dad was an English teacher, and he had a lot of typewriters. Sometime like mid to late elementary school, I think, he got a Smith Corona word processor. He still has it, actually, and my retro-obsessed 13-year-old son loves it and thinks the fact that it uses floppy disks is the coolest, and that to print the page you have to feed a paper into a typewriter. He also loves record players and VHS tape recorders. He's kind of strange. Oh, and audio tapes. He thinks rewinding something when you finish it is amazing. I remember thinking it was pretty cool that I could type more than one line, an entire page really, and it would all show on the screen before it printed out via the typewriter. Whoa. The screen was completely black with just glowing orange letters. That was it. It was great, and it worked for what I needed it to do. I totally could have kept using that Smith Corona for the past 30 years. I could go over to my dad's house and use it now, and it would work. The main thing I use my laptop for is to write documents. I would like to propose that running your programs to accomplish the tasks you need in life with underperforming physiology is like typing your documents on an old school word processor. It works, but if you could see the difference of what it's like to write a Google Doc, you'd never want to go back. I can't imagine living without spell check and punctuation assistance, let alone the ability to format, add tables and columns, insert pictures or borders, or make words hyperlinks, or different fonts, sizes, and colors. Being able to search documents and access them from other devices is huge. Don't settle for a word processor experience of life when you could be using a Google Doc. You don't need to upgrade your hardware for the sake of saying you have high quality hardware. The functionality of your hardware can't be discerned by its appearance. You are not your hardware, but high functioning hardware allows you to be more you. And that's why it matters. We don't care about the aesthetics of our hardware. You can, if you want to, paint a dragon on your case if it makes you happy, but support your hardware, your cells and mitochondria and structural function, because it allows for higher quality programs to run. Mind management, thought work, self-development, and positive psychology all operate at a much higher level when you're structurally sound with proper hormone levels, a diverse microbiome, low inflammation levels, a robust immune system, favorable epigenetic signals, and marvelous mitochondria. I hope being able to run more advanced and fun and exciting software is a good reason for you to put some intention into your physical health. Your physiology affects your psychology. It's the hardware of your soul. Don't rob the world of the Google Doc version of your mind and spirit. Upgrading your hardware doesn't have to be hard or complicated or expensive. I can help you get 100% consistent executing an intelligent plan that will get you there. Thank you so much for being here today and for caring about the world enough to make sure that you're showing up with everything you've got. Next week, we're going to talk about why you should stop striving for success. Until then, tend to the hardware of your soul and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.